I have some wonderful mice to talk about today. So this is the Pwnage Trinity CF and this is the Stormbreaker Max CF. And the CF in the name stands for carbon fiber composite. So instead of magnesium, they now are making mice from another exotic material, and they really have done a great job with the molds, and both of these mice feel super rigid if I press from the sides or from the top. Notice also how the Stormbreaker now has solid sides, which is also available for the Trinity as well, but my sample came with the side holes. These holes in the Trinity are not that bad, however, and while on the old magnesium Stormbreaker side holes kinda guided your fingers upwards, the effect is not that bad on this one, which is probably because the coating and the carbon fiber not being as cold to the touch. The solid side models weigh a marginal amount more, around 2 grams, but if I would choose now between taking holes or not, I would still take the solid sides model with a slightly bigger weight. This particular Trinity I have weighs just around 40 grams with dot skates, and the Stormbreaker Max with solid sides is 48 grams. Looking at the sideways wobble on both, the Trinity has a slight amount of wobble on my unit, but it has not worsened at all during like 3 weeks of usage. The Stormbreaker then pretty much has none at all. I have talked with others and some also have like none on their Trinities, so there might be some variance between units, which is normal, and this level is still very acceptable that I have on my Trinity. There is a flex if you press from the bottom right at the center, because the bottom material is different than the rest of the shell, but I have to say, you are not gonna get any pressure there in normal use, even with the softest of mouse pads if you have skates on your mouse, which I really hope you all have. The main contact points the mouse makes with the pad are the skate locations, which are rock solid on both, so I wouldn't be concerned about this in the slightest. On the main buttons, both of these are using Omron opticals and they do feel very nicely implemented. On my Trinity there is a slightly higher amount of pose travel on the right click, which is something that I haven't really noticed in use, and the pre-travel is very minimal. Stormbreaker then has very uniform clicks on both. The backside button on the Trinity is a bit mushier than the front one, which is mostly because the side button PCB flexes inwards a bit, but I've used a lot worse and this implementation I still find to work very nicely. And on the Stormbreaker, both side buttons are rock solid. The scroll wheel on both is nicely tactile, and while it doesn't have any rubber ring, the texture they have there makes up for that very nicely. The scroll wheel button is also nicely proportionate to the force it takes to scroll the wheel. Here is a quick sound test of the buttons. The shape of the Trinity is one of its major selling points, and it's basically a very close imitation of the Razer Viper Mini shape. I don't have a Viper Mini with me at the moment, so I can't directly compare, but here it is next to the X2 Mini shape, just to give you an idea of the size. The shape is one of the best small shapes for claw grip in my opinion, and it has a nice supporting hump on the rear of the mouse. It tapers in on the center, and it has that very razory front flare. The main buttons extend slightly to the sides of the mouse, which on some implementations can cause your finger to pinch between the gap, but I've not experienced it on this one at all. I think they have made the front right corner slightly rounder on the topmost part to prevent that from happening, since whenever I put my finger there, I just feel a nice round support on the side rather than the gap, which is very nice. The finger grooves on the main buttons are also very nice, and they kinda lock my grip in place on this mouse. The Stormbreaker Max is then a larger version of the regular Stormbreaker, and it is a big ergo. I haven't really put that much time on this one, since the grooves on the main buttons put my right finger kinda in an awkward position right next to the scroll wheel, where I would very much like to have my finger more on the right part of this main button. On closer inspection, it seems that the groove starts on the spot I put my finger on it, and the further you go along the button, the more it evens out across the surface. This means that you with longer fingers won't most likely have this issue, and honestly, this mouse is more suited to you with some real man hands. In hand, this feels even bigger than the Death Adder V3 Pro, so you in my comments asking about some bigger mice, this could be a great fit for you. Another key selling point of these is the Pwnage's patented adjustable sensor position, and to me it's really a game changer. One of my most recent videos was about the JERRORR HTS Ultra, and one of the things I absolutely loved about that mouse was the forward-oriented sensor position, and when this arrived I just basically copied the position to this one, and aiming with this feels insanely precise. So with this you can very easily experiment what sensor position suits you the best. Want more stability? Move it a bit back. Want to feel more like you're aiming with your fingers and have very effortless micro adjustments? Move it a bit forward. For me, my favorite sensor position on the Trinity is when the bottom of the sensor ring is right around 0, so not all the way forward, but just enough to still retain some nice stability with very effortless micro adjustments. So yeah, in my opinion, it is definitely a feature that shouldn't be overlooked. Just don't over tighten the screws while you fiddle around with it. Just when you start feeling some force is enough, and it will stay in place without any problems. The wireless performance of these is also very good overall. There are some stability issues and missed pulls here and there, but I haven't really noticed them to affect real use in any way, and these both can do up to 8K polling both wired and wireless. Motion delay I measured from both is around minus 0.9 milliseconds from my control unit with 4K polling and motion sync disabled, which is the same as with other top of the line mice. 2K results are also very impressive. The click latency is also under 0.4 milliseconds, which is top tier as well. Battery life also seems quite nice on these, and their advertised 90 hours at 1K polling seems to be like a true value. So overall, these carbon fiber composite mice from Pwnage are some very impressive products, and I'm very glad to see that they managed to make some really structurally solid mice from an exotic material, which is not always the case. Especially this Trinity has become one of my favorite mice, and I just aim very confidently with it. The Stormbreaker Max for me is something that will not stay in my rotation, but I feel it has great potential for those with bigger hands. But yeah, that is about it. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one. Goodbye.